菜根谭。
Tending the roots of wisdom.
33. 人能放得心下，即可入圣超凡。
33. When one can release their attachment, they can attain enlightenment and transcend the ordinary.
菜根谭原文：放得功名富贵之心下，便可脱凡；放得道德仁义之心下，才可入圣。
白话文注解：一个人若能不受功名利禄的诱惑，便可脱离世俗污染；一个人若能超越世俗仁义道德等教条的束缚，才可以进入圣贤境界。
33-1. By relinquishing the pursuit of fame and fortune, one elevates themselves beyond the mundane. When they release attachment to conventional morals and virtues, they enter the realm of sages. Translated by Bayandefu.
33-2. When one drops the desire to gain fame and fortune, one rises above the vulgar. When one no longer sets one's mind on morality and righteousness, one enters sagehood. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 33-3. By casting out thoughts of wealth and rank from his heart, a man rids himself of the taint of the world. By removing the strictures of worldly virtue and morality from his heart, a man can enter the sublime realm of perfect beauty. Translated by Paul White.
33-4. If a person can resist the temptation of fame and fortune, they can break free from worldly contamination. Only when a person transcends the constraints of worldly conventions such as benevolence, righteousness, and morality, can they enter the realm of the sage. Translated by Wen Lin.
34. 我戒害于心，聪明障于道。
34. Holding on to one's own views harms the heart. Self-proclaimed cleverness becomes an obstacle to the Tao.
菜根谭原文：利欲未尽害心，意见乃害心之毛贼；声色未必障道，聪明乃障道之藩平。
白话文注解：名利欲望未必都能残害人的天性良心，固执己见才是残害心灵的毒虫淫贼；声色享乐未必都会妨碍人对宇宙真理的探求，自以为聪明才是道德提升的障碍。
34-1. The pursuit of fame and fortune doesn't necessarily corrupt one's innate goodness and conscience. It's the stubborn insistence on one's own opinions that poisons the soul. Indulging in sensual pleasures doesn't necessarily obstruct one's quest for universal truths. It's the self-proclaimed cleverness that hinders moral elevation. Translated by Bayandefu.
34-2. Desire for gain is not necessarily a malicious objective. It is self-centered opinion that forms blister worms of malicious objective. Women and song are not necessarily a hindrance to the Tao. It is cleverness that forms bulwarks of hindrance to the Tao. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 34-3. Desire for fame and wealth does not necessarily harm the heart of a man with a true nature. It is the clinging to prejudice that is the root of harm to such a nature. Lasciviousness in itself does not necessarily prevent a man cultivating the way, it is the employment of his intelligence that puts a barrier between him and the way. Translated by Paul White.
34-4. The desire for fame and fortune may not necessarily harm the innate conscience of a person. It is stubbornness and self-righteousness that act as poisonous thieves harming the soul. Indulgence in sensual pleasures may not necessarily hinder the pursuit of universal truths. It is the presumption of one's own intelligence that obstructs moral elevation. Translated by Wen Lin.
35. 知退一步之法，加让3分之功。
35. The art of stepping back is to gain an extra 3 steps in success.
菜根谭原文：人情反复，世路崎岖，行不去处，须知退一步之法；行的去处，勿加让3分之功。
白话文注解：人情冷暖变化无常，人生道路崎岖不平。遇到走不通的路时，必须懂得退让一步；当前途明朗顺畅时，要把好处谦让3分。
35-1. The warmth of human relationships fluctuates unpredictably, and the path of life is filled with ups and downs. When faced with an impassable road, one must know how to take a step back. When the path is clear and smooth, it's wise to modestly yield even when in the right. Translated by Bayandefu.
35-2, Human nature is inconsistent and contrary. The path of life is rough and rugged. Where the going is difficult, it is necessary to know how to withdraw a step. Where the going is easier, be inclusive in yielding portions of credit for your work. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 35-3, Human relationships are fickle and the road of life is full of ups and downs. When you meet an impasse, you should understand how to retire one step. When you come to an open road, you should know how to make way for others. Translated by Paul White.
35-4. The warmth and chill of human relationships are unpredictable, and the path of life is full of twists and turns. When faced with a roadblock, one must know how to step back. In times of clear and smooth paths, it is important to modestly yield even when in a favorable position. Translated by Wen Lin.
36. 不务小人，礼待君子。
36. Do not harbor ill will towards small-minded individuals, treat the noble with courtesy.
菜根谭原文：待小人不难于言，而难于不恶；待君子不难于恭，而难于有礼。
白话文注解：对待小人，严厉不难，难的是不厌不弃；对待君子，恭敬不难，难的是尊重有礼。
36-1. Dealing harshly with the wicked is not difficult. What's difficult is not giving up on them. Treating gentlemen with respect is not difficult. What's difficult is showing true reverence and courtesy. Translated by Bayandefu.
36-2, It is not hard to treat petty people sternly, but it is hard not to dislike them. It is not hard to treat noble people respectfully, but it is hard to do it with propriety. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 36-3, In dealing with mean people, the difficulty lies not in being too strict, but in avoiding a fastidious attitude. In dealing with noble-spirited people, the difficulty lies not in being deferential, but in observing the proprieties. Translated by Paul White.
36-4. In dealing with petty individuals, it's not difficult to be stern. What's truly challenging is not giving up on them. When interacting with noble individuals, it's not hard to be respectful. The real difficulty lies in treating them with genuine respect and courtesy. Translated by Wen Lin.
37. 留正气给天地，宜清明于乾坤。
37. Leave righteous energy for heaven and earth, and bequeath a clear reputation to the universe.
菜根谭原文：凝守浑噩而处聪明，留些正气还天地；拧卸纷华而甘淡泊，一个清明在乾坤。
白话文注解：宁可保持淳朴的原始天性，而平除后天的机巧聪明，以保留一分正气还给自然；宁可抛弃俗世的荣华富贵，而过着清虚恬静的生活，以保留一分清誉回馈天地。
37-1. It is better to maintain one's innate simplicity and discard acquired cleverness, in order to preserve a trace of purity for nature. It is better to forsake worldly fame and wealth, leading a serene and simple life, in order to maintain pure honor as an offering to the universe. Translated by Bayandefu.
37-2, Rather than holding forth on the trivial and sensational, it is better to protect your latent talent, cherishing a bit of upright spirit, and then returning it to heaven and earth. It is better to reject the glossy and ornamental and be content with the simple and plain, afterward leaving a pure name in the cosmos. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 37-3, It is better to preserve the innate simplicity of one's nature and eschew sophistication, thereby leave a spirit of uprightness in the world. Likewise, it is better to turn one's back on luxurious living and take delight in the plain and pristine, and thereby leave a fine name to the world. Translated by Paul White.
37-4. Better to preserve the simple and innate nature, discarding acquired cleverness, to retain a trace of righteousness for nature. Better to forsake worldly glory and wealth, leading a serene and tranquil life, To maintain a shred of integrity as an offering to the heavens. Translated by Wen Lin.
38. 伏魔先伏自心，欲横先平此气。
38. To subdue demons, first subdue one's own mind. To control unruliness, first calm one's mood.
菜根谭原文：降魔者先降自心，心服则群魔退听；欲横者先御此气，气平则外横不侵。
白话文注解：要想降服外部的邪恶，必须先降服自己内心的邪恶。自己内心之恶制服之后，一切外来邪恶就起不了作用。要想驾驭不合理的横逆事件，必须先驾驭自己容易起伏的情绪，这样所有外来的横逆之事也就无机可乘。
38-1. To subdue external wickedness. One must first subdue the wickedness within oneself. Once the internal negativity is mastered, external influences of evil will lose their power. To control irrational and adverse events, one must first control their own fluctuating emotions. This way, external adversities will find no foothold. Translated by Bayan Defu.
38-2. Subduing the devil is a matter first of yielding up your heart. When you surrender your heart, the gang of devils pays attention and goes away obediently. To manage your flank, first manage your spirit. When your spirit is peaceful, your flank can't be assaulted. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 38-3. To conquer the demons, you must first conquer the perversity in your own heart. Once you have done that, the demons will cower and be at your command. To rein in reckless tendencies, you must first control the impulses that lead to such tendencies. Once your heart is tranquil and your life force harmonious, elements from outside will no longer be able to disturb you. Translated by Paul White.
38-4. To conquer external evil, one must first conquer the evil within oneself. Once the inner evil is subdued, all external malevolence becomes powerless. To control unreasonable and adverse events, it is necessary to first master one's own fluctuating emotions. In doing so, external challenges have no foothold. Translated by Wen Lin.
39. 种田地须除草役，教弟子严谨交游。
39. In the farmland, weeds must be removed. In education, attention should be paid to the friends that disciples associate with.
菜根谭原文：教弟子如养闺女，最要严出入谨交游。若易接近匪人，是清净田中下一不净的种子，是终生难植家禾矣。
白话文注解：教导子弟要像养闺女那样，必须严格管束他们的出入和所交的朋友。万一不小心结交了坏人，就等于良田播下了坏种子，永远长不出好的稻谷。
39-1. When instructing children, treat them as you would care for your own daughter. You must rigorously oversee their comings and goings, as well as their friendships. If, by chance, they befriend those of ill repute, it is akin to sowing bad seeds in a fertile field, which will never yield a harvest of good rice. Translated by Bayan Defu.
39-2. Teaching students is like bringing up daughters. Be stern about their comings and goings, and demand a prudent choice of friends. Once they are allowed to bond with unwholesome people, it will be like planting a single bad seed in a well-kept field. In the end, an auspicious harvest will be difficult. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 39-3. Instructing one's juniors is like bringing up maidens. The most important thing is to teach them to be circumspect in making friends outside the home. Coming into contact with a bad person is like sowing a bad seed on good farmland, the whole crop will eventually be spoiled. Translated by Paul White.
39-4. When instructing children, it is essential to be as careful as raising a daughter, rigorously controlling their comings and goings as well as the friends they associate with. If, by chance, they befriend bad influences, it is akin to cultivating a fertile field with harmful seeds, and one can never expect to harvest good crops. Translated by Wen Lin.
40. 欲路上勿染指，离路上勿退步。
40. Do not dirty your hands on the path of desire, and do not step back on the path of truth.
菜根谭原文：欲路上是，无乐其变而孤为染指，一染指便深入万仞；理路上是，无但其难而稍为退步，一退步便远隔千山。
白话文注解：欲望的事，不要因为容易得到而随便参与，一个不小心就会坠入万丈深渊。真理的事，绝不要由于畏惧困难而退缩，一旦退缩，便会与真理有千山万水之隔。
40-1. For matters driven by desires, do not engage casually just because they are easily attainable, as a single misstep can lead you into a deep abyss. For matters of truth, never retreat due to fear of difficulties, for once you step back, there will be an insurmountable gap between you and the truth. Translated by Bayandefu.
40-2. On a path of personal aspiration, don't follow the easy way and smudge your finger. Once you smudge a finger, you are engulfed to the depths of 10,000 fathoms. On an intellectual path, don't let yourself hesitate at difficulties and step back. One halted step is a separation of 10,000 mountains. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 40-3. When you have material gains to pursue, do not make hasty decisions to do so simply because of their easy accessibility. If you do, you will stumble into a deep pit out of which you will not be able to get out. When you seek the truth, do not make even the slightest retreat from any difficulties which the process may entail. If you do, you will find that you are separated from the object of your quest by 1,000 mountains. Translated by Paul White.
40-4. For matters driven by desire, do not casually engage just because they are easily attainable. One might inadvertently fall into an abyss. For matters of truth, never withdraw due to fear of difficulties. Once withdrawn, there will be insurmountable barriers between oneself and the truth. Translated by Wen Lin.